What's up, Notre Dame fans? Mike Singer, blueandgold.com, with our football analyst, Tim Hyde. We're starting to record this Saturday, April 23rd, just after the blue-gold game wrapped up, about 3:20 Eastern time. I missed the last play, Tim. Did anything happen that you think I would be interested in talking about?
Oh man, yeah, that was a long football play. How's that? But a scramble for the game winner, right? What a spring game! What a spring finish! 2 minute drive by the true freshman. Not too shabby, huh?
So I feel like a lot of people who are listening to this on podcast or watching live with us or listening or watching back on YouTube are like, man, just expecting Mike Singer to gloat. I mean, listen, guys, it was a spring game. Like, I'm not gonna be like, oh, Steve Angeli is the savior of Notre Dame football. He's gonna win a Heisman and a national championship. But of course, I'm gonna have some fun with it.
Yeah. It's not like he was throwing out routes to drive him down. So got a couple of 2 yard screen passes and whatnot. It wasn't too bad. It was nice to see the drive executed.
Are you shitting me right now?
No. No,
I mean, he
no,
was
okay.
throwing nice stick routes. Like he was. He was delivering the ball nice.
We'll talk plenty of quarterback play. I'm assuming.
All right. Well, folks, appreciate you joining us live. Mike Singer, Tim Hyde here on YouTube. Appreciate you guys watching back podcast. Leave us a nice review on podcast channel. Drop that thumbs up. Subscribe to us on YouTube. Go to blueandgold.com. $1 of 1 year of premium access. We'll go ahead and start. Let's take a look at the stat sheet here. One thing that's interesting. So sorry for podcast audience. You'll just have to follow along by listening. So on the blue team, I actually reported last night. Angeli will be playing for both teams. He threw one pass in the first half. It was a drop by Matt Salerno. They have him listed as 0 for 4. They gave 3 incompletions from Pine onto Angeli. So the final numbers on Angeli would be the 11 for 14 for 180 yards and a touchdown. And then Pine, I'm having to do a lot of math here. Whatever, 9 plus 13?
22 for 33.
Yeah, but you gotta subtract or add on 3 completions. So he actually threw, was that 37 passes?
Yeah, threw a lot.
He threw a lot, and let Tim. Let's just start with Drew Pine there. Look, I think Notre Dame fans are just going to be it's typical overreaction.
Mm-hmm.
Time but guys, it's a spring game. You're gonna tell me that you're gonna throw away everything you saw from Drew Pine last year just based on this spring game? Yeah, he didn't look great, but I'm not really. I feel the same about Notre Dame's quarterback situation as I did coming into this game. Are you in the? I'm intrigued to see where you're at on this, Tim.
Yeah, it was. To be brutally honest, it was bad. It was not a good performance, but it's spring. Like I texted you, it's hard to judge because mixing and matching, linemen here and there, wide receivers, the guys running back and forth playing, both sides. But it was not sharp. There was not a lot of crisp throws. A lot of miscommunication for a guy this is going into his third year. It seemed like a lot of miscommunication. He's throwing short, receivers are running long. He threw long once, receivers ran short. So that was odd. That was odd to see. I thought quite a bit of miscommunication when Pine was out there. So, it wasn't. There was not a lot of great deep balls. Not vertical too much, but they weren't game planning, so it's not like they're going in here scheming, trying to get ready for the Buckeyes and whatnot. But yeah, it's now you sit back and you're like, what would Buckner have done? Now that's going to be the kicker moving forward. Really, is we have not seen what Buckner could do. Is he that much better? Is he the same? We don't know. So it's going to be interesting to see pretty much where I think Buckner lies with Pine after spring.
Let's go glass half full here.
Yeah.
On Drew Pine's performance today. Um, I mean, he had walk-ons rotating and in there all the time. I mean, it was a just disjointed, um, offensive line and tight end, and like it's just a scrimmage. It's a spring game. Not really concerned about it. I mean, if it's, um, like remember what he did against Cincinnati, Wisconsin last year, like that's Drew Pine to me. I don't know how much more of like how higher his ceiling is than what we saw last year. So I think if you're a Notre Dame fan, you're like, did Drew Pine get worse? No, like no, that's not what's going on here. But the glass half empty view of this is like I think in a spring game, Tim, we're not really concerning ourselves with schematics here or play calling or it's really just we're looking at individual performances, like just who can
Yes.
shine. I mean, the second half, Tim, I was trying not to be on my phone looking at social media just outside of this game because I was pretty bored. So you're just kind of looking at individual performances, and Drew Pine's individual performance was not good. And what that means for the quarterback battle, I feel like the Notre Dame coaches already have a good idea of the quarterback situation through 14 practices. I bet they've gleaned a lot more about that situation um, in actual practices than the actual spring game. I mean, am I wrong, Tim?
No, you're correct. And even Marcus Freeman even mentioned that. We got 13 great practices out of Tyler Buckner, so they were fine with what happened. But yeah, when you mentioned the term there, individual performance, he looked ruffled. He looked shattered. He looked he looked scared, frightened a little bit, a little unease. He looked like a true freshman, like he just showed up 6 weeks ago. That was what was interesting to me, was his demeanor. Even a couple times on the sidelines, guys were trying to talk to him, and you could tell a couple GAs or a few guys that they must be new to the staff were trying to chat with him, and he really looked you know ruffled out there, which was interesting. A guy who's been through this now for obviously 2 seasons, and this is his third spring. So that was a big shocker. I get it with the players, and they didn't have Tyree. They're not. They ran about 47 screens, I think we counted. It seemed like every other play was a screen pass. So they definitely did not want to throw the ball more than 10 yards. I think Paulus was the only one who threw a vertical pass once. It was yeah, it was interesting, but it was the demeanor. And when you're going into your junior year, he didn't look like a dude that, if Buckner sprains his ankle 2 days before Ohio State, what's Drew Pine going to do in that game? But
Let's talk about Angeli, though. I mean, like, I don't want to give him too much praise because, look, it was a spring game. Just like I'm not going to be super down on Drew Pine right now. I'm not going to heap, like I said at the top of the show, and we have a great crowd with us. Make sure you guys hit the thumbs up. Subscribe to our YouTube channel if you have not. Blueandgold.com, $1 premium access for the entire year. But like, yeah, I'm not gonna crown Angeli as the greatest quarterback just yet. Maybe later. But look, we're talking about individual performances on that pass down to Connor Radigan in that left sideline. Dude looked poised, calm, cool, and collected. 3 words to describe Steve Angeli, and he looked great. I mean, he really did. I think that was the most beautiful screen pass on that touchdown I've ever
good touchdown.
seen.
Yeah.
No, but seriously, like he looked like that. I mean, that was his first time ever playing in that kind of setting, and he looked really good.
No, exactly. He looked a little bit calmer, but that's the makeup. I mean, you've talked about this a billion times, Mike, about his makeup, what his high school coaches have said about him, what Tommy Reese has said about him. And he was kind of that dude today. He was that guy. Yeah, the screen pass he hit to Price was perfect time. Let the guy hit me, release it. It was beautiful. Real quick on the screen, I know I texted you. Kudos to Zeke Correll again. Every time they run a screen pass, going back to 2020 when he was in the Carolina and Bama games, 52 is sprint down the field. And number 3, Houston Griffith wanted no part of him, but that was nice to see Zeke. But Angeli just put up the stats. I think that last drive, 10 plays, 75 yards.
Yeah, let me
You
find
know, I
it,
know
Tim.
there was a 15-yarder, which was, ticky tack, but still, he got him down there, which is pretty impressive with the running clock, rotating a ton of guys. That was, right there, right? Steve Angeli, scoring drive, 10 plays, 78 yards, 4 minutes. Not bad. And it was nice. My takeaway, though, is, I mean, there was no vertical type game. There was not a lot of, deep type stuff, a billion screens. And I mean, 3 out of every 4 passes was 10 yards or less. But that's probably just what Reese was like. Let's just do this and keep it going from there. But it was nice. Like you said, the guy's only been there a couple months. And I think everything that's been said about Stephen Jelly, he showed today. I think you would agree with that.
I've been calling him a taller Drew Pine for a while.
Yeah.
like I, but yeah, I was a little surprised even of his president of his fan club that how just poised
Smooth.
and
Yeah.
he's just nothing rattles the kid. So yeah, I
Very smooth.
yeah, want to transition. We'll talk more quarterbacks, and if you guys have any specific questions you want Tim or myself to answer, drop a super chat. We are very easily bought, and we will get to any questions right away. But Tim, thoughts on the defense? Anyone that really stood out to you today that you'd want to highlight?
Well, I was kind of just, spring game. You got dudes all over the place. You're trying to watch 22 guys, especially when you got starters all on both sides. So you're just going back and forth as fast as you can, spot shadowing guys here and there. I look at it as getting ready for the 2022 season. I look at by position. I think the starting D line is going to be outstanding. Those guys are going to be outstanding. Wait till you get Adamiola back there at the 3 tech. They're going to have some guys inside. My big takeaway is always going to be Riley Mills at the edge. Is he a true pass rushing force? He's a beast, long arms, tall as can be. What is what's he going to give you on 3rd and 8? Or is he going to be out of the game? You know what I mean? That type of thing. I thought the rest of the guys, Lacey looked fine. Cross split one double team one time, looked outstanding. They're going to be solid there. They're going to be solid. Linebackers, their starting 3 are set. It's going to be Maris, Bo, and Kaiser. I thought Kaiser looked good. Maris looked nice. The big story is just Tui, Junior, Tui Alamaka, who is, I think it was Ashton who wrote about him recently, Pollard there at Blue and Gold, and he showed. Freeman's talked about him. He looks like a dude that's been in the program for 3 years. Outstanding football player. They got 3 safeties, and obviously Brandon Joseph had a nice TFL, and then you go Ramon Henderson. Their corners are set, and my biggest thing, I talked about this when you and I started this just 2 months ago, chit-chatting, getting ready for 2020, is the DBs. I thought those young guys really, really showed. I was very impressed.
So you just said
Very
getting ready
impressed.
for 2020. That was 2 years ago, buddy.
Yeah, 2020. Oh my God, 2022. I was thinking, trying to rattle. Seriously, I'm still like trying to break down 22 guys at one time. I thought that was a lot of fun. But I thought Barnes looked nice. I really like Riley. Tucker looks like a dude that has really, really developed a lot since he's been there. And I know he was nicked up last year, and he looked really smooth. And then the 2 freshmen, I texted you. I know you've been really high. Once again, he had a Bergen Catholic kid, Bellamy. He looks like he's a guy that, is he going to play a lot this year? Probably not. But he shows that, those instincts where he's going to get on the football field somewhere sometime soon. And Mickey's been talked about a billion times. And he shows he's playing as a freshman. Where are they going to play him? That's going to be up to that staff. But he's got to get on the field. He's got a lot of athleticism.
All right. We got a couple comments we need to address because this is just
Sure.
typical. This is typical fandom, very reactionary. Angeli's number 2 QB. Like, come on. No, he's not. He's not. He's not. And I love Steve as a player more than anyone in this chat room, unless any family members of his are on here. I'm more high on him than you. And he's not the number 2 quarterback yet. Like, it's a spring game. Like, okay. Here's another one. Steve Angeli is a dude, but inexperienced. Yes, we know. That was his first game he's ever played, and it was a spring game. Bernie says calling Angeli a taller Drew Pine after watching the mess in the first half is an insult. I mean, it's a comparison of how someone is playing the game. Like Pine is a very cerebral, smart football player. Um, Not the biggest arm in the world, but he's accurate. And a decent athlete. I think Angeli's a better athlete than Pine, and I think he's obviously bigger. But I just don't. I'm not gonna be the guy who's like, well, did you watch that spring game? Like, what the hell does the spring game have to do with making your definitive opinions on a football player? So I'm sorry, we're not the hot take show to say, well, he sucked in a spring game or he's amazing in a spring game. So that's how we're gonna draw our opinion on somebody. Like we're gonna be a little bit better than that. So
He is. I'll tell you what, though. You just mentioned it. Athletic. He's a lot more. He's very athletic. He's.
yeah,
I mean, not he's not Buckner, obviously. He's sprinter wise, but he can move out of the pocket. Some of the way his footwork was and whatnot. He was impressive. But that goes back to his high school. He played for one of the premier high schools in America, and he got an unbelievable coaching. And he's going to get that at Notre Dame, and he's just going to keep getting better.
yeah. Okay. Just some notes I had that I want to talk to you, Tim. Thoughts on the crowd? I know the broadcast audio wasn't perfect. We don't need to talk about that, but just thoughts on general the spring game production, just what you saw watching it on TV.
Well, I love listening to Ryan Harris. So I love him when he does the radio games. I just love the way he talks about Notre Dame and football in general. I mean, my God, the guy's got a Super Bowl ring and 4-year starter at Notre Dame. So I really love him. I thought the crowd was great. The energy was great. The sideline shots. The audio on the sideline interviews were obviously brutal, but that's not for us to fix. But that's an NBC issue. It was good. It was a good production. It was a good show. Good camera. Uh, it was a little bit longer than I thought, but they called a lot of timeouts. They did a lot of situations. Even the second half, I thought was a little bit slower, but they were calling timeouts and whatnot. It was fine. It was a nice atmosphere, beautiful sunny day. Had some cramping out there because I know it's been cold out there. I had some snowy days recently, so a couple guys are cramping in that fourth quarter. But it was nice. It was good production. I had no issues on my television watching the game, so no issues with me.
Yeah, Tim. I think one thing that stood out a little bit was some of the receivers. And looking at this unit. So I'm gonna pull this up here in just
Mm-hmm.
1 second. We felt like we weren't 100% sure about like someone like a Jaden Thomas, and obviously we're still not. But um, what is he? And I thought he looked pretty good today, right? I mean, I
Yeah.
want to say he had a 22-yard little end around. Let's see, 4 receptions, 39 yards. I feel like he flashed today. Any thoughts on Jaden Thomas, the sophomore
Well,
receiver?
well, he was one that Freeman brought up during Fiesta Bowl practices as a freshman that was starting to turn the corner, and so that would I'm just going back to then how he's developed since then. No, yeah, he looked really good. Colsey had a couple plays, some miscommunications with Colsey. Obviously, Lindsey had a great back shoulder catch on one. Styles, they didn't do much. With a lot of those guys, Thomas did play a ton, and then you had a bunch of walk-ons, and I think they must have played. They played a lot of tight ends. They played a lot of tight ends off in the routes and all that. But as far as those young guys, seeing guys that getting ready for this season moving forward, I thought Thomas definitely flashed, played really, really hard out there.
Yeah, I mean, he again. I feel like the rest of the receivers. I mean, we probably want to see a little bit more from Deion Colsey to learn more about him.
That's the one.
But
Yes.
otherwise, I feel like we know a good bit about these guys. Thoughts on Colsey? I mean, two receptions, 8 yards today
Yeah, and it's going to be one where
on
you
eight
go back
targets.
and
Eight
watch.
targets.
Yes, and watch the replay. So, that was with Pine and some miscommunication a couple times that it looked like, but a few others. I'm dying to go back and rewatch because I thought my initial reaction was, is he competing out there? Because I thought there's times the corners were just up in him playing extremely physical and getting after him. So that's going to be interesting to see him on the replay there. But Colsey's the one that's definitely needed. Obviously, going into this season, I think we know what we got in Styles. You know what you got in Lindsey. Davis should be back. How's Wilkins going to be? And then it's got to be Colsey, right? Or unless you're going to play two running backs or two tight ends and have those guys flexed out. So that's going to be one of the big storylines getting ready for game one.
Running backs, I don't believe we have any word on if any of those guys actually got banged up or what it is, but Jadarian Price certainly looked good. 8
Yes.
receptions on 9 targets, 104 yards, and the touchdown. Of course, he had the 51-yard
Mm-hmm.
touchdown on the screen pass, and then rushing the ball just 9 yards. Or excuse me, 12 yards on 9 carries. Thoughts on him? I've heard he's looked really good through the 14 spring practices, and obviously Notre Dame Nation got to see him today.
And you posted that this week on our message board at blueandgold.com about how he's been that talk of amongst coaches, one of the young guys that has really come on over the last 6 weeks, and it showed. His highlight film looked like he did today when he has the ball out there. He could run. That kid's electric. I mean, they got 4 running backs. Obviously, we didn't see, Chris Tyree, which probably wasn't needed. Diggs out there. Looks like Diggs got a little stinger up in that shoulder when he was stiff arming the guy going out of bounds. And then Estime looked, and he's a tank. He's a tank. They literally have 4 guys where if Estime's out there getting 15 carries or Price is out there getting 15 carries in a game, I don't think anyone's going to have an issue with them. It'll come down to pass pro, but they could catch. Price could catch. Price showed instantly he's going to be another Diggs Williams type dude out of the backfield. If he's in there, you got to be prepared for that. You got to have a spy on him just for screen passes, I would assume, if he's in a game early in the season. So 4 really, really good running backs heading into this football season.
Yeah. So I think another thing that not great today. Let me see if I can pull up these stats. It was the special teams. Yeah, it's
Ooh,
just it wasn't great. I mean, it's Salerno dropping or muffing the punt. Notre Dame was 1 of 4 on field goals. Blake Group, good from 36 and missed a 41-yarder, and then Josh Bryan
yeah,
missed from 48 and 37. Could certainly excuse a 48-yarder.
sure.
That's difficult for an NFL guy, let alone a potential backup at Notre Dame. But yeah, 41 and in for Blake Group and from Josh Bryan. You expect to hit those. Punting goes. I'm not a punter expert, so I'm not going to
Yeah.
pretend to critique that. But I don't know, Tim. Just special teams. Marcus Freeman actually said, if I could pull this up real quick, what he said about the special teams. Following the game, he said, "We got to improve. That's a huge challenge if we want to become a national championship caliber football team. We have to improve in the kicking game."
I would agree. You can't be missing 30 some odd yard field goals. I mean, those have got to be chip shots, especially at Notre Dame's level. Like he's talking about, you want to compete with the elites. You drive inside the 20, you should be able to make a 35, 38-yard field goal now. That should be automatic 3 points, no questions asked. So that was a little concerning there, but that's been an issue in the graphic. Peacock showed the graphic of, they've really only had 3 kickers the last decade, and Brenza, Yoon, and obviously Adore, who's just
Yep.
leaving. So they've only had 3 guys. So it's, we've been spoiled at Notre Dame. We've had 3 really, really good kickers here lately after probably a decade of some average ones. So yeah, but you drive down there, you got to get those, which is scary because now you're like, Door hit some 50-yarder, some biggies, especially last year. So that's going to be a spot now where Notre Dame gets that mid 30s or so, or they're going to have to go for it. You know what I mean? Instead of trying to kick a field goal. So that's gonna really change what Freeman does if that's the kick and moving forward.
Great comment here from Bob Walker. This one deserves the DJ air horn. I love it, Bob. He says nothing special about the special teams today. Yeah, that's a good one. Very clever.
That's
We got a couple comments about Junior Tui Halamaka. Um, yeah, him next to Maris, they look like some dudes at inside linebacker. Thoughts on those two guys, Tim? They were flying around. Maris had the pick on the screen. I can't remember if
yeah.
that was the one that got called back, but yeah, they look good today.
No, they're flying around. Tuli Alamaka had some just run pops. I know that Ryan Harris was talking about no blitzing. No, Tuli Alamaka was doing some run pops. He popped about 2 different times and blew up 2 plays. Had a great TFL. Outstanding football players. And you have Botella next to him, by the way, who looked like a natural at Rover. And you can see a little bit what Golden's going to do. And Freeman's mentioned this a little with their defense, how that the Rover is going to be basically a Viper, which
Yep.
means, if you read between the lines, they're going to be running a lot more 3-4. And there was one
Mm-hmm.
where Botello blitzed, Brandon Joseph fills in the alley, and you have the TFL. That's basically an old school 3-4 blitz, cover 3, cover 1, whatever they're doing in the backfield. So you're going to see more of that. But what's funny is I wrote down on my one of my notes is Notre Dame going to recruit Hawaii anymore? Because you got Maris, you got Botello. There hasn't been too many Hawaii Notre Dame football players that have not been good. And that was just one of my notes. I was going to mention that down the road. Like, is Freeman going to get back into Hawaii? Because if they come to South Bend, 99% of the time they're playing. So it was just nice to see those guys out there making plays. You had 3 Polynesians. I felt like I was back at one of the JUCOs I was at coaching one time where, I think we had 7 starters one year, all local guys, Polynesians playing for us. And those dudes were flying around knocking the heck out of people.
Love it. Love it. All right,
Yes.
we're gonna get into some Q&A. So drop your hot takes, drop your questions for Tim and myself, and we'll get to them. And to guarantee that we answer one of your questions, drop a super chat and sound the alarms, and we'll get to it. So I don't think we've really talked about the O line D line today. Thoughts on anyone there? Anyone stood out to you? I felt like D line looked good at some points. The O line had some clean
Mm-hmm.
pockets. It was pretty vanilla because there weren't many blitzes except for when Jordan Patelho seemed to go rogue. But yeah, I thought it was fine by both. I mean, they ran the ball at times and they
Mm-hmm.
couldn't. I mean, it was a good stalemate.
Yeah, no, exactly. A couple nice double teams with Fisher and Lug together. Joe Alt, I actually wrote down. There was one pass play where Joe Alt just stones Mills. Mills was going against him, and he just doesn't even move. He looked outstanding. It was nice. One thing I did notice was much more double teams than in the past. It felt like you were watching old 2015 film. A lot of double teams at the point of attack. But some of the defenders were splitting some of those because it still is going to be Harry Heastan going on that film, chewing some behind there, telling the guys to stay on them a little longer. They were coming off just a hair. But D line was nice. Like I mentioned earlier, the starters were nice. It's those backups. Rubio had a couple really nice series. Then he looked a little tired. Same with Jason Anye. I thought he looked very average early. As the spring game went on, got better as the spring game got on. He started making some plays and starting to run to the ball. He looked really nice. That's a big dude inside. Him and Rubio, a couple big bodies. Kristofic missed a huge block on a screen. Spindler had a couple nice plays. I came away and I wrote this down on my notes is Zeke Correll. He's a senior. Is he really going to sit on the bench as a senior? Because that guy just makes plays as a center. He really, really does. Not saying, he's better than Patterson, but he's a good football player. He really is a good football player, and he shows it out there. So that's going to be interesting to see what, and I've mentioned this. Is he the 6th guy? Is he the first at guard? Do they put him at guard? It's going to be interesting once Patterson gets back because I thought Zeke looked outstanding today.
The Zeke Correll to guard experiment did not really work last year.
No, it did not. But that happened day one of camp, And I agree. At least he's got some experience there, but he's a good football player. He really is, And I feel for him because when he's out there, he's making blocks and busting his butt like he did in the few games in 2020. And what's going to happen with him? Yeah, it's going to be interesting.
Maybe we should have like done the show a day afterwards. I mean, I got somebody just said don't be surprised if Price and Angeli start against Ohio State. I mean I
No,
mean
come on. Come on.
yeah,
Chris hold on. It's like Chris Tyree, and he's just hanging on the sidelines. Diggs, it was more Estime and Price. They were playing the third stringer and the fourth stringer way more than the other two. That was very noticeable. And when you get into these spring games, you already know what you have in some of the dudes. So you're going to play some of these young guys to give them a little bit of live action. And Price stood up, and Jelly stood up. But I know you love Angeli, but Angeli was not out there hitting 20-yard out routes. He wasn't pattern reading three guys and whatnot. They were showing some screens, quick stuff here and there. It was easy. His poise was very impressive. That's what was very nice about Steve Angeli. It was his poise. Is he ready to go into Ohio State and be the next man in? You're going to be asking a heck of a lot, but the kid has some poise, no doubt about that. But I don't think you or I or anyone is thinking he's going to be doing that.
Tim, do you feel the same about the quarterbacks right now as you did when you woke up this morning?
I tell you what, I literally, it's on a sticky note. It's my first note, kid you not, 8 a.m. this morning. I just started writing some pregame notes, and this name hasn't even been mentioned yet. And I wrote down, are we going to talk more about Dante Moore?
No, we're not.
And we probably should.
No, why?
So, but that's just me.
Just me. You didn't play today.
Exactly. So, but I think there's a big time need at quarterback after what you see today. That's my take. And I wrote that down today. Is he going to be at a higher need after what we see today moving forward in 2023?
Man, I'm not worried about 2023 right now.
Oh, I know. We got a long way to go, but no, I mean, quarterback is what.
Hey, answer my question, Tim.
It kills that we didn't see Buckner. That's what really kills.
I'm gonna ask the question again, Tim. I mean, I want to hear what you got to say. Do you feel the same? Like, are you more down on the quarterbacks right now than yesterday, or like before the game started?
Not more down. I'm not a big Drew Pine fan. I think he showed what he is today, because we would have seen him last year after the two games that he played in. We never saw him again. We haven't seen him since, was that Wisconsin or Cincinnati game. We've not seen the guy. What has it been, 8-9 months? Angeli, and I think Angeli's a solid quarterback. I think he was way, way underrated. He is much better high school quarterback than 15 dudes ranked ahead of him. Easy. So he's a solid quarterback. And I thought we saw Angeli what we saw on his high school film. A guy that's going to go out there, do what's asked of him, make some football plays, and be very poised and can move. And he showed that today.
Yeah. I'm the same. I'm stock slightly up on Steve, right? That he's farther along than maybe we thought, and stock slightly down on Drew, that he did not look like a even anything close to a truck, right? Talk about truck or trailer all the time.
Yeah.
Not anywhere close.
His one interception, who was that, to Henderson? Is the one he had three dudes. I don't even know what he was doing the one where he throws up. Is that the one that was called back where down the middle? There's three dudes around. He was trying to hit like a deep square, and it looked like Brendan Lindsay was running a square, and he throws it. It looked like 10 feet over his head. I thought that was a bad interception. I think that's the one they called back. Possibly. That was a horrible football play by him. But that was his mannerisms. Down. Yeah, that was his body language. That was very interesting out of Pine. But at the same time, is that who he is? I don't know. It was really it was interesting. More from him today, I felt.
Yeah, he got picked off by Justin Walters. It was not pretty. That got called back, and then I think it was the next play or two plays later, he got picked off by Jordan Patelho when he was pressured by Alexander Ahrensberger, and then of course later is picked off by Maris Lufau. So, So my thoughts are little down on Drew Pine right now. A little bit higher on Steve Angeli, but again, we're not going to. We said this in our Wednesday show, Tim. I said, look,
Yeah.
if Steve Angeli goes out there and lights it up, or if he stinks, I'm not going to overreact, or I'm not going to gloat if he's great, or you know, lose my mind if he's not. It's a spring game, so
Just
yeah,
wanted to see a little bit more. I mean, they've had 14 practices. So it is a scrimmage. It is a practice. That is the other thing. It is a practice. But at the same time, it was sloppy. It was very sloppy. It wasn't a lot of Christmas to it. Even if, Pine knows, hey, I'm going to Colsey on this one, or I'm going to Lindsay on this one. And, those are still guys he's obviously been throwing with all spring. It was a little sloppy. It was a little sloppy.
okay. Question from Eric. He says, "Is it too early to think Jaden Mickey can contribute as a true freshman?" And then I'll also add a follow up. I can't remember if you mentioned earlier on Jaden Bellamy. Thought he had a good game
Mhm.
today as well.
Yeah, Bellamy, before you go to the question, yeah, since you asked, a freshman. Those freshmen and the sophomores to be Barnes, Riley, and Tucker, and obviously Walters had a pick. All I thought showed flashes, showed really, really good athleticism. But is it? Yeah, I was very impressed with Bellamy. I know you've talked about him a ton. How the coaches like him. He's an Angeli on defense. He's a guy you're like, Bellamy looks small on film. Is he fast enough? But the guy makes plays and he's in the right position. I thought he was there today. As far as Mickey goes, it's been talked about since he signed about how he's always a nickel candidate. Is he going to be that third corner, that guy you play on the slot? He's always been mentioned there. And the fact that Freeman has talked about him a bunch in spring ball shows he's going to get on the field somewhere. Obviously Hart's out. So you have Hart, Bracy, and you have Lewis. So those three. And then it's going to come down to where's Mickey going to be and what type of package.
Yeah, we got a comment from Tommy. Says, Singer, you said this week that you can see if a guy is accurate or not just watching the game. I don't remember saying that, but yeah, sure, it sounds like me. Pine was not accurate. No, he had a bad game. I mean, I think I'm a good husband most of the time, but sometimes I have a shit day, and it doesn't make me a terrible husband. I mean, guys, it was a spring game. Like, get the bad stuff out now. Just not I'm just not overreacting. You guys can.
It is a practice. I think Reese looked like he brought in about 12 to 15 plays today. They weren't doing a ton. There were some tight ends out there I couldn't even find on the roster. So they were playing a lot of. The first touchdown went to a walk-on tight end. Everybody. So it's not.
Yeah.
Let's take a deep breath here.
It was about plus 6,000. Andrew Janoshak, as the first touchdown scorer. So yeah, who knew about Charlie Selna before today too?
Exactly. He was out there. He's a good-looking little kid. Tight end in there, catching a couple little under teners.
What are you sipping on, Tim?
I just got whatever beer was in the fridge. It's beautiful Saturday, enjoying spring ball, and overreaction Saturday, right?
Man, overreaction Saturday is correct. How was Clarence Lewis today, Tim? Any thoughts? I know we've got a couple questions about him. I don't believe he played a ton today, but
he played some. It wasn't he wasn't facing Oklahoma State, so he was a heck of a lot better today. But Lewis is fine. And I said this right at the start. We know who the guys are going to be going into Columbus, Ohio, and nothing really changed. I think today. I think the biggest thing has always been, that we've heard recently is the left guard. Is it going to be Kristofic, Spindler? Who is going to be the two deep behind linebacker? J.D. Bertrand obviously didn't even play today, leading tackler last year. So it's going to be some of those two deep spots and whatnot. But now Lewis was around the ball a few times, but it was not an aerial assault he had to face.
We obviously talked a good bit about Junior Tui Halamak as a young linebacker. Josh Burnham moved to Viper this spring. He's a big dude. I've gotten to see him this spring, and monster. Ziegler, Nolan Ziegler, 4-star. Mike, he's playing Mike.
Yes.
And then Jalen Sneed has kind of been someone. He came in with all the fanfare. quiet spring. But yeah, any thoughts on those three? The three of the four that Notre Dame signed in 2022.
Yeah, Burnham's not needed this year. He's got Foskey and Adamiola, playing the two Vipers, so he's not needed. But he looked a little rusty at the beginning. It's the first time he's ever taken live snaps with people watching him on TV. He was doing a little head up, meaning he's running into guys' chest. And as the game got on, he started keeping the edge a little bit better. Heck, he got a holding call on Tosh Baker on that last drive, by Tosh on defense. So he was fine. He was fine. He looks good. He's a good looking kid. He's going to really, really grow. You could just tell his body. Ziegler was another one, Nolan, that just popped out a few times. Like, oh, who's that? It's like, oh man, there he is. There's a little freshman. Played Mike Backer. Was playing Mike in there. Really nice instincts watching him read. Real physical too. He had two nice stuffs. I remember watching him. He's 42, I believe, right? Was it
Yes.
42? Yeah. And then Sneed, yeah, just just learning, I know people always wants to talk about the 5-star, put him right in the spot. But yeah, he looked a little lost, some bad angles a few times. He's a guy that could run. You could tell he could run. Is he going to be a Prince Colley type
Well,
guy who
what
takes
did
a
they
year to get in the groove?
what did they say on the broadcast of these four linebackers? Only one of them actually played linebacker in high school.
Junior.
That was Tui Halamaka, just a
Yep.
straight Mike all in high school. Ziegler played
Yep.
safety.
Wide
Um,
receiver.
yeah, safety and wide receiver. Broke all sorts of records at receiver.
Yep.
Burnham played some linebacker, but also played D end and played quarterback and tight
Starting
end.
quarterback. Yeah, starting quarterback running the option as a quarterback and played
Sneed
Mike every now and then.
Sneed was as a junior was a 8 yards off the ball safety
Yep.
in quarterback. And yeah, senior
Yep.
year is needed on offense more than he was on defense. So yeah, I'm not. Yeah,
No, I agree.
dude's
I
just.
agree.
What about this name, Tim? Prince Colley.
Yeah.
He looked great today, right?
He does.
He looked big. It was good to see him in
Yes.
there. 3 total tackles, 2 of them tackles for loss.
No, he's number 32. You saw him right away. He looks the part. He's gotten really thick. He reminds me of some of those old school linebackers. Goolsby played with one. Brandon Hoyt. He looks like Brandon Hoyt. Looks like Kennon Tatum. Kennon Tatum was an old free safety Bob Davie recruited when the Holtz years was going on, and moved him to Will Backer. Every time I watch Prince Colley, all I think about is Kennon Tatum. So he looks just like him. Really, really good looking kid who's going to be in that 2 deep going into that. Notre Dame's got some solid 2 deep guys. So some of these freshmen, we always talk freshmen. It's always the hot topic, but some of them just aren't needed, and that's okay. That's okay for them to develop, get ready for 2023.
Yeah. So the gist of the show, if you're just joining us, Steve Angeli, best player to ever. I'm kidding. But hey, walk off touchdown to spring game. That's pretty special. I loved once that play happened. My Twitter, I got like 8 people just tagging me. Mike, you watching that? So I got a good kick out of that. Couple comments. Bob says the defense seemed to be playing at a quicker pace than the offense. I think that's just the defense. Tim, you tell me if I'm wrong here. Defense, see ball, get ball for this kind of game. Offense, maybe we can use this kind of illustration. Offense is like a symphony. You need all of these parts to put it together perfectly. Defense in a spring game is like heavy metal screamo. It's just it don't need to be perfect for it to be music.
No.
So
Flyer, and that's why Tuli Alamaka was out there in Botella, a little freelancing at times. You could do that, right? You could do that early on because, once again, offense. I know people want to, go crazy. They only ran a couple different running plays. They ran, a ton of outside zone or inside zone that bounced some. There's not a lot of scheming, people. So not a lot of scheming, and it's always that old coaching saying, defense is always ahead of the game early on, and it looked like that. And with Buckner brings that style of run. Now you got to respect that. There was not too much of that today, and defense could tee off a little bit.
All right. Have a comment here from Corey. He says, I understand it's still spring, but this is the culmination of all the practices and too many weapons not utilized. Tim, what's your reaction to that comment?
Where's that one? I'm sorry, I was just reading another one. I'm sorry.
That's probably because I need to pop it on the screen. There you go, Tim.
Oh, okay, there you go. The culmination. Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's not utilized, but they're not. They're not. This is not a game. They're not. This is not something to utilize weapons. They're not scheming with Michael Mayer. I fully expect to see Michael Mayer play more wide receiver than tight end this year. We didn't. They weren't going to do that,
especially with Jared Parker, who was a receivers coach, right?
Exactly. I fully expect Mayer to be this year's Tyler Eifert. They're going to flex him out all over the place. Did they do certain things with Styles? No, Styles was out there very, very limited today. So, they didn't.
That's the thing. It's like, Drew Pine didn't look great, but he had Mike Mayer for, a few series.
Yeah, Mayer would make a play, go take a play off, come back, go off. He was going back and forth. Salerno had more snaps at slot than Styles.
Yeah. Like, again, Drew did not look good, but this is the type of game where you don't want to, like, if you're not going to look good, this is the time, because there's a lot of things that make this not normal football. So I think this might be something for fans to understand. This is like the spring game is not really a showcase. It's not like, hey, fans, we want to impress you with everything we have. I don't think the coaches think like that. I think it's like, crap, this is going to be on TV. Oh, well, like, we're going to play everybody. Like, this is just to get some experience, have our guys playing in the stadium with some fans, have a real game scenario with down and distance, and they're not on the practice field. I think that's it. I think it's just have some good experience, don't get hurt, and go. It's I don't think it's a, hey, let's see if Drew Pine has it based on the spring game. Like, that's practices 1 through 14. Just this now. I don't want to discount the spring game and say it's not important at all, but it's not that important.
No, you're right. And sometimes it's just about situations, putting someone in a different situation. Maybe they haven't been in. Maybe they called some plays on 3rd and 8 that they haven't worked on. Those are things you do in scrimmages to put on film to teach off of down the road. So that happens a lot more than people think.
Some of these guys don't even know the full playbook, or not even close to the full playbook. So yes, it was a real 11-on-11 football, but like, not really. That's what I'm trying to say. Like, I hear things like, it's not a real game. Corey says, do you think Marcus Freeman was holding back? I will let you take that wherever you want, Tim. Do you think Marcus Freeman was holding back?
Yeah. Because today does not count on the record, so I don't know what holding back is. I mean, they played probably 2 coverages. They had a couple Mike Backer pops, a rover blitz off the edge. They sat in one front over and over again. Of course they held back. They're not going to go out there and show their 5 wide package, their 2-minute drill, their zone read, quarterback power game, and things of that nature, getting ready for Ohio State. Of course they held back. That's yes, they did. Yeah. It's a scrimmage to put a few plays on more film, coach off of that. They already know what they got in Isaiah Foskey, Lacey at nose. They already know what they got in Josh Legg. He's been there 6 years, for crying out loud. So they know they got Fisher and Alt. It's more about, how did Tosh Baker? Is he going to be their 3rd tackle? It's more about Bauman, Evans. Do they have a second tight end to play on the edge so they could split out Michael Mayer? It's those types of things that the spring game's about. And then we haven't gotten into the biggest thing of today was the 30 probably plus recruits that are on the sideline. That's the most important part of spring football at every university.
I don't know what to say about it. I mean, I'll interview them, but I don't know anything right now. They're still on their visits, but
yes.
I mean, I think Notre Dame put on I don't know what the recruit side of the actual game. I don't know what you can think about the spring game. It's just a spring
They
game,
don't
but
care. Those guys are on the sideline high fiving Jerome Bettis. I saw
there you
Bryant
go.
Young go out the hash mark to go high five Marcus Freeman going in the Hall of Fame. You think those guys care what's going on in the third quarter? Heck no. They're going on the sideline talking to Hall of Famers and some of the greatest football players in Notre Dame history on the sidelines, having fun with their families and soaking up the atmosphere. That's what they're doing. They could care less.
All right, Tim. Early score prediction: Notre Dame, Ohio State.
Woo! Oh, wow. I think Notre Dame's gonna have a really fast, athletic defense. I really do. Ohio State is a juggernaut. I watched their spring game. They're missing some dudes, obviously. I think their old line it was a little bit softer than I thought. They got two good looking tackles. Interior guys are going to be a question mark. I think, man, yeah, you got me excited now. Oh man, 20, 27-20 Buckeyes. That's my pick here. What is it? April 23rd. I think Notre Dame's going to play better defense than people think this year. And I don't know if they're thinking bad. I think their defense is going to I think Notre Dame's defense is going to be lights out. I really do.
Yeah. So Notre Dame ended up keeping a lot of pieces from last year's team. I don't think they even thought I didn't think they were going to keep Isaiah Foskey.
Oh God, yeah.
And then you add Brandon Joseph, and yeah, it looks really good on the defense side of the ball. But man, I just don't know about quarterback.
I know.
I just don't know about quarterback. That's where I'm worried. So, but we
What's the point? The point spread's what, 13 and a half?
2 touchdowns.
2 touchdowns. That's huge. But at the same time, Notre Dame has not had success the last 4 times they played, 95, 96, and they've played in 2 Fiesta Bowls, and and they've had no success. But it's going to be a biggie. I think Notre Dame's going to play their tail off. But you're right. I mean, you and I are going to talk about QB until the cows come home. So
yeah,
and that's what stinks about not seeing Buckner. Not that we would have saw him and say, oh, he's Tim Tebow, he's Heisman, just to see his mannerisms. How does he connect? How did he click on a few?
I just want to see him throw the ball downfield. That's what I want to see. I just want to see him throw the football down the field. Talked about earlier in the show, individual performances is really what we want to see in the spring game. I just want to see Tyler Buckner throw the football downfield. Garth, thank you for the super chat. Says, I think we have people on the O-line that are going to be backups, but would start at 90% of college teams. I mean, I think Michael Carmody and Tosh Baker, your 2 offensive linemen in that 2020 recruiting class, I think that's the case for them. I think they're solid football players that would start most places. We talked about earlier Zeke Correll, Tim.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, if he's your backup center, that's the best backup center in the country.
Oh, God. Yes. And then you got if Zeke, just watching him play, I just like, I love him at center. I really, really do. So it's like, keep him in the fold, keep him going. And he's a team captain, 5th-year starting center in 2023. So got to keep Zeke around. Baker flashed early, gave up a hold early, looked a little bit average. I thought he gave up 1 sack. There was one he gave up a sack where he looked like last year. He just kept going back. It's like, you got to stop. You got to hold your ground at one point. You got to put your foot in the ground and say, got to make a stand right there. Carmody looked really nice playing center today. I really liked him out on the inside. So, yeah, I mean, there's some dudes that are going to be backups. Is that going to be Spindler? If Spindler's a backup, okay, he's only a sophomore still, but he's going to play somewhere this year. He's going to get some reps getting ready for next year. And if he beats out Kristofic, I mean, that's what, a 7-game starter sitting on the bench. So, yeah, there's some good depth that, Harry Hiestand has on the offensive line.
Cool. All right. Anything else you want to add here, Tim, before we log off?
No, we've mentioned it. Some of the young guys really stood out. They rested some of the vets, and let's start talking about Ohio State. It is going to be one heck of an opening weekend. I mean, what do you got? Oregon, Georgia that weekend too, I believe. Yeah, I haven't got into the whole national scope, but I think LSU opens up against Miami too, so that'll be interesting.
Yeah, that's so far for me, but it'll be here before you know it. It will be.
But it's all about it's all about the Buckeyes. So let's get ready to go.
and we will be providing tons of good video content here on our YouTube channel as well as on podcast format. Make sure you guys hit the thumbs up, subscribe to our channel. 1 year of premium access for just $1 over at blueandgold.com. That offer will expire soon, so make sure you go ahead and take advantage of that. Mike Singer, Tim Hyde signing off. We appreciate you guys, and of course, we will catch you next time.